Welcome, Lee Duncan. Thank you very much for coming on the show and getting involved, having a chat. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very well. As I just explained to you, it's a bit of a manic day today, very unexpected. So yeah, I'm just trying to get my breath back just now, mate, to be honest with you. But I know, all good, all good. How are
Absolutely
you?
busy
You
times,
good?
busy times.
How are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, all good. Obviously loving this sunny weather we finally had. We're in full swing of summer now. The touring car season is well and truly in full swing. So yeah, can't complain. But thought I'd start by asking, just for those people that are out there who don't sort of know you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, I'll take you right back to the pretty much the very beginning. Purchased my son a PlayStation 4 for one of his Christmas. I got Gran Turismo Sport with full intentions of putting him on it and just trying to get him involved. And then it became more me that was more active on it, shall we say.
Mhm.
And it's just grown from there. I raced for Team Year One. And then I realised that I wanted to try and do something a wee bit more like special and unique, something that needed like a kind of from a ground up the way to be built. So therefore, with my health and disabilities and whatnot, I seen that Team Brit had a esports team,
Mm.
but they were only on PC. So obviously, I got in touch with Max Spooner, who was the team principal at the time. And after probably about 6 or 9 months of hard work and proving to him and doing all the designs, he got me on board. And that was it. Absolutely great bunch of people. Loved it. We all met up at the Team Brit headquarters at the Top Gear test track. That's when the McLaren was on show and it was going to be debuting in its British GT. Sadly, things move on and whatnot. I wanted to try something even more unique, which was a complete full project. But my love lies with the British touring cars. I've been watching it since I was a wee boy. Took my son to it, well, all my kids to it, in which I decided to approach Team Hard. And sure enough, the guys were absolutely delighted to, have it. It's a great accessory to any motorsport team. Obviously these guys are limited to the track time that they do and what the sponsorships actually gain from that. With broadcasting and whatnot. But in the esports, it's I can race 7 days a week, 365 days. And as you can see with some of the cars, Duckham's are on show for unlimited motorsport. It's free advertising, really.
Mm.
More than anything. So, yep, this is my 6th year. Now, sim racing, I say professionally. Obviously, I'm not a World Series GT, speed racer. I'm 44 this month and the 17th. So, I'm not getting any younger. However, I'm extremely passionate about what I do. And for that, I'll, keep doing it until they take my license off me, basically.
And I think you've highlighted a lot of real positives and perks of sim racing because it is a great alternative to now get into the sport, whether it's just a bit of fun and really fueling a passion for the sport, as right up to the kind of level of a good alternative to karting because that is typically the way people get into motorsport, but that's very expensive now these days.
Yeah.
The heights it's got to. So yeah, it's a great alternative, isn't it?
You even get the go kart sim racer, sim like rigs that are like a go kart, very low down, exactly the same as a go kart, But back in the day, I had the PlayStation 1. I raced on Gran Turismo, but you were just racing against Al, But it's obviously come through all the different generations, and then Gran Turismo Sport it just kind of took off, and then we hit COVID, and woof, that
Mm.
was it. People couldn't hit the track, and there was so much uncertainty. But if you were in your home, you could race all night. So,
Yeah.
the fact that Ash Sutton does it, Dan Rowbottom I know does it as well, and then obviously Max Verstappen does it. So, it's so realistic now. That's what makes it so immersive. You basically feel that you are in the real car, pretty much. So
yeah, for sure. It's interesting you brought up COVID actually, because sim racing a whole really thrived in that period of time, didn't it? When we were all shut in at home, because everyone got involved. Whether you mentioned like the drivers you mentioned just a second ago, who are quite well known for being involved with sim racing, right up to a lot of other drivers who hadn't really done much of it at all. I guess that was a real positive for that side of the sport, despite being such a difficult time in worldwide elsewhere.
I mean, it was £1 million empire. It's now £1 billion empire. The numbers of people that actually sim race for fun, as a hobby or professionally, is just phenomenal. There's James Baldwin. He's one of the names if you want to pick out. And then you've got Jan Madborough from GT. Obviously, the GT movie that was released. So, the scope is there. It can be done. But there's just different aspects of it which I would like to fine tune. Because you do have a disabled esports sim racing community, but they don't know where to start. And there isn't really a professional competition that they can compete in. You've got the Gran Turismo World Series. It's the same names every year. And the same with Rensport. It's Williams Esports. It's FaZe Clan. It's Guild Esports. You've got all these esports teams. Not one of them has a disabled driver on board. And I find that does upset me, and that's something that I'm hoping to change. And the fact me having disabilities doesn't really hinder the fact that I can sim race. Because again, it's done in home. I'm comfortable. It might take me 10 minutes to get in my seat or 20 minutes to peel myself out the seat after a race, as I did last night, after 100 laps of Daytona Oval. That's my real mission. Obviously, Nick Hamilton was part of Team Hard for quite a few seasons. And when he knew that I was on board and I was doing all the cars and the designs for people to actually add onto their cars and drive like Team Hard, they were loving it. He was loving it. And so was his father that I met at Donington for round one last year.
Yeah.
He came over to me and says, you're not the boy that does the sim racing and the esports. I says, oh, I am, yeah, Anthony. And he says, oh, I've heard great things about you. See these wee things, it's very surreal.
No, it's great. And I think you mentioned, obviously, the people kind of getting involved with the different liveries being put out there for all these cars. And I think that in itself is brilliant, because motorsport fans, I know the number one thing they want is involvement. And obviously the British touring cars is great for that. It's very accessible. But having that extra kind of, choice of enjoying the sport, that extra option is brilliant. So it's nice that you've kind of got involved in that way, as well as obviously competing and obviously further ambitions for yourself as well.
I mean, as I say, I'm a professional, but, professional can mean numerous things. I'm trying to make a profession of what I'm doing, but purely because I give it my all. I basically treat it as a full-time job, but I have the enjoyment side of it. That's where a lot of sim racing teams, I feel, go wrong, because you still need to have that fun aspect about it to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay, the guys at Rensport, it's like a £600,000 prize pool for a season, split over 3 or 4 rounds throughout the year. But, I just want to change it about a wee bit. I want to throw a wee bit of a spanner in the works, shall we say. Rustle those feathers again.
No, I like it. So you're now obviously driving and representing Unlimited Motorsport. Obviously, everyone will know from the British Touring Car Championship. Just a note on them, just in obviously the real world racing. I think they've done very well this year. Obviously, Daryl De Leon piloting their Cupra Leon. I think they've performed a lot better than a lot of fans, pundits would have said at the start of the season. What have you made of their results so far this year?
Again, Daryl's very, very keen on the sim, so he's more a set of Corsa competizione. But no, hats off to the guys. He's given it his all. Unfortunately, when I watch the races, I watch them time and time again. At the same time, he's young, so he doesn't have that. Not that he's not got the hunger. He does. He likes to succeed, as anybody does, but he just has that kind of. I'm not going to dive in front of Ash Sutton or whatever like that to start a war, so to speak. So he's very, very sensible with his racing style. So yeah, no, hats off. It's a great team as well. All the managers, Bobby Sharpless, the sponsors, Duckham's. It's another level. It really is another level, and it's only really going to get bigger.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of excitement with the team's future after a pretty good opening half of their first season, obviously in the championship, and obviously you're driving for them in the sim racing stuff, which is it's just cool. You obviously mentioned the great perks of sim racing, and it's I imagine one of those situations where it's a win for everyone. Really, it's a win for you, obviously getting to work with them, and like you mentioned earlier, it's great publicity for them as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. But when you're at a certain age, you don't want to be classed as like the average sim racer or have the average sim racing team. So being linked and associated with a real team is quite important to me. That kind of differentiates me from the average Joe's on Gran Turismo Sport and 7. So yeah, I mean, I cover all sim races. If I've got the PC down here. But ultimately, Gran Turismo is very accessible. Every second household in the world has a PlayStation. So it's so accessible. Okay, it's not as accurate as a set of Corsa Competizione or Rennsports. But again, why should these guys be treated any different? It's still a sim race. It's just they don't have the luxury of having a PC, and I find that's quite kind of upsetting for these guys because I know I used to race in a lot of the daily events on Gran Turismo, and there is a lot of talent out there. Okay, ironically, there's a lot of idiots as well, but you probably get that in all the platforms anyway. But there is a lot of talent out there. As I said, Jan Madborough with his new movie, obviously coming through the GT Nissan Academy. I would love to see them bring that back again. I really would. I'd actually like to see a wee bit more. You've got Garage 59, who, are always using James Baldwin. And then obviously, I think just there they had Jan Madborough as well. But again, these guys have had their shot, if that makes sense. Give it to somebody else, let them see how they can cope. That's the way I see it. These guys have done absolutely amazing. Now pass it on to somebody else and let somebody else take the reins, so to speak, if you want. I'm not saying necessarily me, as I said, I am certainly not the fastest in the world, but you don't need to be the fastest, to prove a point. So yeah, head down, just graft away, mate.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Probably one of the biggest worries for a main team is because you have real life sponsors, right? And that's one thing that myself and the team, okay, it's a very small team, there's only maybe 6 of us, but each and every single one of us understand the importance of the sponsorships. And that's the only way I've managed to make it work, being involved in the right competitions, so to speak, where there's not going to be foul language in a stream, because it's all these things that, go against you. But no, I've pretty well established in certain competitions, and the guys do a good job. I would love to stream myself. I would love to do this myself. I've got the kit to do it. I'm not very, what would you say, happy on the camera, so to speak, with a left side paralysis. But I just this is the only time you'll see me is doing podcasts.
That's completely fair. No, it's an interesting one, obviously, with sponsors. I mean, obviously, they are. I think it's great that you've got that understanding of how crucial they are, because at the minute, especially in motorsport, how much money it costs, it is crucial, isn't it? But like I said, it's for sim racing, it's a great alternative. Obviously, it's a lot more cost effective, and like you said, it's great to be running like hand in hand with a proper team, and not just that, a British touring car team being, the biggest championship here in the UK.
Yep, most popular motorsport as well. That's why I had to go with the British touring cars. I love the British GT. I love the endurance stuff. I followed Team Brit way back. I think it was the Monday night show that I first heard of them, and it was Bob Bundley doing like an interview with them. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to speak to them, and that is genuinely where it started. But it was just a kind of fun thing with Team Year One, and then I thought, I want to try and make something of this. I can make something of this. I got involved with the Red Line Racing League guys. We raced every kind of week. It was just a bit of fun for yourself, and I got the experience in behind me. And then I just went, you know what, I want to take this next level. Let's go next level. Throughout the whole journey from Team Brit to Unlimited Motorsport, the sponsors love it. They love it, But again, they can only say that because there's no, what would you say? It's done properly, The guys, if they're doing live streams, they don't speak down on the sponsors, the team, none of that, I treat my job, I treat what I do like a real team and like a real racer, So the sponsors are very, very important to not only the real team but myself. So, yeah.
No, it's a good point, Matt, and I think that's a good kind of setup overall. Just sort of going off of what you've just mentioned there, you've obviously discussed in the past you'd like to make the transition from sim racing to real life racing, which I think is, we've seen so many drivers do it, like you've mentioned early on in this interview. Tell us a bit about your sort of ambitions with that, because obviously it's a big change, but that's one of the reasons sim racing is here, I suppose, isn't it? It's a good stepping stone up into the real thing.
Well, when I first announced, when I first spoke to Bobby Sharpless, the team owner, about this, he was more than happy, but we didn't know really what was involved. So I maybe posted up a few things. I had known that Ash Sutton was from sim racing, but I didn't know if he was completely from sim racing. So I stated that I wanted to be the first sim racer within the British touring cars, right? And the only reason I'm wanting to do this is because I want to prove to others that it can be done, And if I've set a standard for the sponsors, they know me, they know how I act, they know how my whole personality and how I come across. Then I can teach others, I can show others how to do it and get them involved and pass it. I'm only asking for one season, or maybe even a half a season, just to prove what can be done. Because again, you don't have to be the fastest, but I'm pretty sure that what would you say? The hunger, the passion can take over that talent. That's the thing, I'm 44, Louis. I haven't worked in 5-6 years due to my health. So this would really turn my life around. Not to become, what would you say, a known name, somebody famous, That's not what I'm doing. I just want to introduce a road, a path into the British touring cars from, esports. Because obviously they've just announced, this junior touring cars series, So there is no reason why these guys could set up with Ash Sutton, get some sim races, some rigs, as they did at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and we can introduce the top 2 sim racers in a series. Make a seat, they get a seat, or get 2 seats, whatever. There is no reason to do that, because right now, it's getting tough. Look at Bobby, Bobby Thompson, prime example. He can race, he can really race. He's a really nice guy, but he just can't get that funding that he needs to compete, and I think the whole esports, having that esports is just a great addition. It's another advertising tool, shall we say, but you need the right people to do it. So.
Yeah, no, it is a really tricky one with money and sponsors, and Bobby Thompson's, like you said, a great example of that. And I think the BTCC at the minute is obviously yes, it's more challenging than ever, both whether you've actually got a seat competing in the category, or you're trying to break in as a driver, as a team. I think I've seen from because I often get your TikToks and all sorts popping up on my my various social media feeds. I've seen obviously a lot of different reactions from fans, as we always get in motorsport. We're kind of used to that from British touring car fans, which I think it's good because it shows how passionate they are. What's sort of your take on those sort of doubting whether this sort of thing going from sim racing to real racing is possible? What's sort of your take on that sort of thing?
Again, to be honest, that fuels me, Lou. That
Mm-hmm.
fuels me to actually manage and pull this off. You know, because I'm not doing this for me. You know, as I said, I'm not a camera person. Obviously, I would need to maybe do the odd interview or whatever and have a picture taken, but that's ultimately not what I'm wanting to do here. I'm ultimately just wanting to prove how passion can overtake talent. You know, I'm 44, so I would maybe be the second oldest on the grid behind Nick Halstead, maybe. So I'm not exactly a junior, but I'm very passionate. So for that, that's why I want to see this through. I've got the team, I've got the right people behind me. I just need to get sponsors on the car, shall we say. But it's not going to happen overnight either.
No.
I think to do the full transition, you're looking at roughly about 3 years to do it properly. You know, from following all the TOCA rules and regulations and getting all those stamps in. I've said I'm going to start it next year. I've got my YouTube channel all set up. It's just a case of getting this year out the road, getting the end of the season finished with Unlimited, doing a few races, and then I'm going to set myself a plan as of, you know, in January when I start, which will probably be the kind of first day that you would get back after your kind of winter Christmas holiday break. You know, I'll probably start it then. But no, put it this way, it's a full project, full project. You know, I've sim raced, I can sim race, I know all the flags. I do need a wee bit of fitness work. So yeah, these things are all things that I've got to look into and plan, because ultimately I don't want to, you know, look bad for the sponsors or the team. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it right, and that's the only way to do it. So yeah, haters are going to say, mate, that's part and parcel of it, you know. But I won't know unless I try. So
Yeah, no,
for
very,
that,
very, very much so. Very much so. I think, I mean, speaking to you for the last sort of 20 minutes or so, I could see the passion and the determination, obviously the thought and hard work, which is sort of going into this project as a whole. But it must be cool having, you know, looking back on what you've achieved so far and having this kind of whole project laid out in front of you as well. That must be really satisfying and exciting, and like you said, a great motivation for you.
it is, Bunny. It is, you know. Over the last, I know this might depend who listens to this. I've mentioned my health, right? I'm still able to drive. I still have my license. However, you know, I have had about 10 operations to reduce a brain tumor. Okay, it's benign. It doesn't affect my balance or anything like that, but it is deadly in another form that if it's left to linger, that I found out back in 2016, that, you know, it needs monitored and it needs checked. So for the last 9-10 years, I've had an operation. I've got 2 a year. It went from a 9-hour theatre to 1.5. I can get in and out the same day. But, you know, it's not to be superhuman. It's just, you know, when you're recovering after an operation, you know, the best way to recover is in home, in your own space, you know, and do your own thing. I hoped that wouldn't, you know, bring any issues with regards to a race license or whatever, a medical side. But again, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, you know. But if I get started and just go along as normal, we'll see where I end up.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. Well, we've got the British Touring Car meeting at Knock Hill coming up very soon. You must be looking forward to that event. It's always a good one. I've only actually been up to Knock Hill once before, so it's just a little bit of a journey from where I am. But yeah, it should be a good weekend. And obviously, Unlimited Motorsport looking to continue building their good momentum.
It's a really good track, and it's a really good place, and the people are brilliant. Unfortunately, the weather, well, as we found out last year in race 3, it was like a complete war. Remember, I had to take the the flag girl at the front with the board, the model. I had to take her jacket off the grass because I mean it was actually torrential, you know. But again, the race went ahead. Quick change of tyres onto the wets, and away they went. But it's just, I don't know, man. It's just a great community. I love the whole motorsport racing esports community. You know, a lot of the guys, again, as I've already mentioned about Gran Turismo, but that's again where my journey started. So it's quite special to me. It's not just a game or a PS. You know, as where this whole journey started. And you know, if I am getting on a wee bit, my son's going to be, you know, about 13 shortly. There's no reason why I can't pass something on to him and let him shine. Shall we see?
No, very true. It is a great community all round. Just before we wrap up this interview, do you want to give a quick shout out to anyone, any of the sponsors, teams, just anyone in general? To be fair, it's like life gets busy, so it's good to have a couple of minutes now at the end of this interview.
Well, again, mate, I wouldn't have been able to do this without the support and the backing from obviously Team Max Spooner, and then going on to obviously Team Hard, and obviously now Unlimited Motorsport and Bobby Sharpless, and my sponsors, you know, Duckham's. These guys are great. They're just, I mean, they share my content, and that just blows me away. So no, massive shout to these guys. These guys are really in it. They I think they understand the importance, you know. So I've got a lot of time for these guys.
Yeah, which is great. But it's been great to have a chat with you about obviously your sort of your journey so far, the plans for the future, and obviously the best championship here in the UK being the British Touring Cars. And obviously with that, enjoy Knockhill, which, you know, we can hope for some nice weather, but we know Knockhill. We know for BTCC there's going to be a mixed bag probably, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always the same. It's looking clear so far. I have checked the calendar, the weather, and it's looking dry, overcast, dry. But you know, that's just the weather apps. It could all change by next week. We could be back into the snow in the winter, and God knows what. You know, you get 4 seasons up here in the space of an hour. So yeah, just need to play it by ear and see what happens.
Yeah, very true, very true. But thanks for coming on the show for a chat. And do keep up the good work.
Thank you, Lee. You take care, buddy. Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.